there's two reasons that a reader is going to read your story. They're either going to read it because they have to, because it's the next thing. So they'll read the next paragraph because it's the next thing, or they're going to read the next paragraph because the last paragraph forces them to.
Yeah.
It pushes them through the story or pulls them through the story, however you want to look at it, as opposed to them having to slog through the story. And right now, since I haven't got hooked on anything, I don't really understand motivation, I don't see where I'm at, I'm now slogging through this story. I'm reading the next paragraph because I have to if I'm going to keep reading this.
Yeah.
But since choices are unlimited for us readers, I don't have to slog through this. I could stop reading this and move to something else.
Releasing your inner dragon.
So, Marie, I hear you have another brave soul who has offered up their pride and joy and soul and love for sacrifice.
I do indeed. I have another brave individual who has decided that they are ready to face the gauntlet of a critique and to learn from previous mistakes and to help become a teachable moment for everybody out there.
Which we do appreciate.
We do appreciate people who are brave enough to do this and who share their work with us and let us do these critiques. So without further ado.
Yeah, so while you're doing that, if you would like to share something for critiquing, we do have an email address that's for that, releasingyourinnerdragon@gmail.com. There's actually two different things that you can submit. One, you can submit something for critiquing. We say no more than 1,000 words. We rarely get past 500 because there's always so much to talk about. But you need to make sure that you label it as this is for critiquing, because we do another thing that we haven't done in a while, and we need to do one here in the next month or two, which is first page reads, where you send us your first page and we act like the publishing industry or agents, and we kind of tell you where we think an agent or a publisher would stop reading and send you a rejection letter and why. So if you would like to be a part of the first page reads, you need to make sure that you label that as first page reads, because we don't want to critique something that you didn't send in to be critiqued. But other than that, that's how you do that. If you are listening to us on a podcast, we will try to make this as apparent as possible, but really you're going to get more value out of our live critiques if you head on over to YouTube. We are sharing the screen so you can actually read along with us. And while you're at YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe and like and share and all of that. I know you've got another writer friend out there that you wish was a little bit better than they are. So, you can share this out to them, and it's just a nice, kind way of saying, hey, you need to get better as a writer. You can say, hey, I found this really cool podcast that I enjoy listening to where these two people talk about writing. You might want to listen to it. So please share it out. And you can do that on the podcast too. Share, please share right now. Share. All right. Where are we at?
All right. So I'm just going to start reading and then we will discuss as we go. In his state of intoxication, strobe lights of purple and magenta hues plunged the world into a seedy haze. Premium tequila burned his throat. The stench of nitrous oxide pervaded the air, all of which signaled hallmarks of a good party. Caught between women and clients vying for his attention, young Pooch indulged himself. He revelled as the life of the party, host of the evening. Yet there resided a stain in his efforts, a certain insubordination of the entourage dared to threaten his paycheck, and thus disrespected the event crafted in his image. I'm going to stop there just briefly. I am not certain of the use of the pronoun before we get to the name young Pooch. Because I'm not completely opposed to going pronoun and not name in the first paragraph if there is some kind of payoff. But there's no payoff to starting with just the pronoun in this thing. It's 3 sentences, then we get the dude's name.
Yeah.
So
I got
really, yeah.
I got a couple problems with that. First of all, if I'm supposed to be in the head of Pooch, then he freaking knows his name. So why isn't he telling me his name? There's no payoff for it, as you said. There's no like advantage for me as the reader to not know that I'm in Pooch's head. But the second problem that I have with that is no young man is going to call themselves young. Once you hit 14, 15,
so
16, you're an adult.
There.
Huh?
I'm a pushback there because I have a feeling that young Pooch has a payoff to it. Like it might be a nickname or like a musician's name or something like that. Like it might be a rapper name.
I mean, I would still give that elsewhere.
Because both are capitalized, I can go for that. Like it's got that pretentious kind of feel. Like I'm this kind of dude, like which fits with the rest of the. It especially fits with the last sentence. A certain insubordinate of the entourage dared to threaten his paycheck, and thus disrespected the event crafted in his image. Like it does fit with that. So I'm okay with the young Pooch part, like the young part, but I want that name earlier.
So the only reason why I'll push back on your pushback is I think that would be better served given not as the very first name. I still feel that if it is a title, if it is a rapper handle or whatever, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you've read some of this. I definitely have not.
No.
And just looking at the what's available to me on the screen, I just see Pooch from there on out. So you are correct. It is a capital Y. So maybe it is more of a nomenclature than just, the young boy, the young Pooch, the young Drake, whatever. It still just feels a little insulting of the POV for the POV to refer to themselves as the young Pooch. So I can see it either way. I definitely see if there's a payoff for it, then I will retract what I have. I don't see a payoff in the first 18 lines. So just saying that to me, in Pooch's state of intoxication, then we know we're in Pooch's head. We know what's going on. We're grounded. And then somebody else can call him, like down here on line 8, Mommy B can say, young Pooch.
Yeah.
We have a slight problem. Like, then we can then we know there's no confusion that young Pooch is his nickname or his whatever he's going by. So that's just my opinion. I agree with the starting with his.
Yeah. The other thing, I am not crazy about this last sentence.
Well, there's a couple things before them, but yes, we can talk about that. I wrote lost. It feels way too purpley to accomplish. Like, I actually like the first part of it a little bit better than the second clause, but it just feels too. It isn't in the same tone as the rest of it, I guess, is the way I feel about it.
And man, I am going to write a blog post just on pronouns. That his is pointing at probably at the insubordinate of the entourage. Or
maybe technically, but since the entourage is a plural and his is singular, I doubt if anybody makes that mistake. So I think everybody's going to point that back to Pooch. Like I said, technically you may be correct, but it's sort of like when you say when you have a he and a she, and if you say, like John turned to her and said, technically, even though her points back 100%, to John.
And that is a legitimate use of the pronoun. But the problem is a certain insubordinate, this part, is also an antecedent.
Oh, no, I didn't even read it like that. I'm sorry. I misread that. Yeah, so that would be singular.
Yeah. So now we don't know the gender of the insubordinate, and his might not agree with it, but it might agree with it.
Right.
Right. And that's
Well,
the
in this
problem.
case, it does agree with it because we don't know the gender. So you just gave us the gender by saying his.
Yes. So now it looks like a certain insubordinate is male because the next pronoun must be pointing back at it.
Right. And he's threatening his own paycheck,
Yes.
which, is not
Which could
an
be,
insane
but I
statement.
don't think that's the author's intent. I think that his is supposed to point back at young Pooch.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think. Like, I don't know.
Well, and that's the problem with mixing up pronouns.
Yeah. Is you end up with people going like, does that mean that the insubordinate is threatening their paycheck or they're threatening Pooch's paycheck?
Right.
Like,
but I also have another problem with a certain insubordinate.
Yeah.
Because this is going to have way more impact on the author than on the reader, because the author knows who that certain insubordinate is. We don't.
Yeah.
So this is a good example, in my opinion, of head book versus paper book. When the author reads this, they are seeing who this is. They know who this is. We don't. And so therefore, it doesn't have the same impact on us.
And it is so generic that it means nothing to me.
Right. That's what I mean. You're not going to think of anything.
Yeah. Whose entourage? Pooch's entourage? Somebody else's entourage? Like, like it doesn't add anything. It doesn't add any tension, which I think is what it's there to do. It's supposed to craft tension, but it doesn't do anything.
Yeah. No, exactly. Again, I think that's why it's head book versus paper book. It means something to the writer, so they assume that it means something to everyone else, but it doesn't mean jack squat to us. And so it has no impact on us whatsoever. And so therefore it might as well have been we didn't even read it, because we're never going to take that information further with us.
Yeah.
If you write something that doesn't connect to us in any way, we don't hold on to it and go, oh, maybe this is going to make sense somehow, because it doesn't. And I mean, it doesn't connect in any way, which is what this does. Or doesn't do. If it's a foreshadow, if it was the bloody dagger sat on the table,
yeah,
we're going to be thinking that connects in some way because we're in this event. But this one doesn't connect, so we're going to drop it from our memory. We're not even going to worry about holding on to it. It means nothing to us, and so therefore it's not going to stick with us. And then the last thing that I have a problem with in this paragraph is the young Pooch indulged himself. Like, and so many people do this, and we talked about this last night in the writer's room, which was, why are you telling me something and then showing me the exact same thing that you're telling me?
Yeah.
Like, you're telling me that he's indulging himself, and then you're showing me that he's indulging himself, both before it and after it. You've shown me that he's intoxicated. The premium tequila is burning his throat. The stench is showing him that this is a good party. Blah, 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 blah. Obviously, he's indulging himself. Why are you?
This line is obvious. All of which signal the hallmarks of a good party. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
And this line, I agree, is just obvious. Like, and you're about to show me. I really don't like it when authors do this. It always feels to me as though they're treating me like an idiot. Like, I won't be able to infer from their writing what's going on, so they have to also tell me. And I'm like, why do you think I'm an idiot?
Yeah. But this is actually one of the most common things that newer writers or writers at the beginning, and really even professional writers, doing the not trusting your readers and showing something and then telling it just in case they missed it, or telling them and then showing them just in case they will miss it. It just comes down to being able to trust your readers and trust yourself as a writer, that I'm showing you all the good hallmarks of all the hallmarks of a good party. I've got premium tequila. I've got this, I've got that. And instead of, the telly caught between women and clients vying for his attention, I could actually just show that. I could show, this one woman pulling on my sleeve, but this other guy's like, no, young pooch, we really need to talk about some business here. And then I don't have to say, because it's a tell. I don't have to tell them that I'm caught between women and clients. I can actually just show it, and not really in a lot of extra word count. So we're not even
Yeah.
saying that. But
You don't have to
again,
write a lot more. Just show me instead of just telling me.
yeah.
And this is the petty reason why the first time I tried the Jade books by Fonda Lee, I quit in the first chapter. I eventually went back and I did finish the first book, which I had a different critique of afterward. But I was so irritated. She sets up this whole thing in a bar, and it's abundantly clear that the bar owner is desperately trying to save face with the triads there, and like trying to, make sure that his bar doesn't get blacklisted by the triads and stuff like that. And I was really into it. And I was like, yes, I understand the culture. I'm getting it. And then she says, it was imperative to the bartender that he not lose face and his clientele and I was like, I'm not an idiot. You just spent a scene showing me this. And I just was like, I am going to be petty and not finish this. Ha.
Yeah. I mean, we talk all the time about how petty readers can be.
Yeah.
Somebody in the writer's room last night, they only did it once in their thing, but they had pulled out a line of dialogue and just put it on a paragraph by itself, even though the paragraph before it was a one-line thing that set up who said that. And so I was like, these are two paragraphs. This is one paragraph. This needs to be here, because it was John walks into the bar, comma, hey guys, how you doing? Or, and then, but he, for whatever reason, had put it, hey guys, how you doing, on its own separate line. And so I just thought it was a, typo, whatever, because he didn't do it anywhere else in the piece. And so I popped him on it, and he was like, actually, I did that on purpose. And I've been thinking about this. I really think that maybe I would like to write every single line of dialogue by itself on its own paragraph. And I was like, that's a really good idea. Another good idea is just go around and take a pair of vice grips and clamp it on the genitals of every one of your readers. That they'll enjoy that just as much too. So go ahead and do that. That's fine. I'm like, why would you even think to do that? And he's like, well, then it stands out. I'm like, yeah, it stands out as who the heck said this?
Yeah.
like that's what it stands out as. There's a reason why we have paragraph structure, and why one paragraph is one character's moment of time.
Yeah.
So, and actually, before we move on, since that's the second time I mentioned the writer's room, let me tell everybody a little bit about the writer's room so that you can maybe take advantage of that. Are you ready to take your writing to the next level? Well, you need to head on over to writersroom.us and join me in the writer's room. First of all, there's a free section. Now, you don't get access to everything in the free section, but you do get access to a lot of things. Like, I do a monthly critique group in there, so you can bring your stuff in, get critiqued by me, and be critiqued by others and critique others. I do a Q&A every month for a free section. You can join us live as we're recording Releasing in Your Dragon. That's a part of the free stuff. There's a whole bunch of things. But yes, the magic does happen if you become a full member. Now, I get it. There's a lot of other websites out there that are membership sites to help you become a better writer. I'm not saying they don't do that for you. What I am saying, though, is us writers are broke, and most of them are charging $200, $300, $400. I've even seen them for $800 a month. That's insane for a starving writer. We are trying to be much more in line. Now, the normal price of the writer's room is going to be $100, and you'll get access to everything that I'm talking about here. But for the first 250 members who join, because we are kind of in that building mode and we're adding things and so on and so forth, you'll get it for 50% off for life. So for $49 a month, you get multiple critique groups that you can come to every single week. I do a class in there every month. I do a writing workshop in there every month. I do a development pod every month in there, where you can actually sit down with me, and me and you together can work on any problem areas that you might be having in your story. Maybe it's a weak character arc or a sagging middle, or you don't feel the ending is quite punchy enough. Well, you want to sit down with me and bounce some ideas to see if that helps you with your stuff? You have access to that in the writer's room, and so much more. A writing contest for a publishing contract, all sorts of things. So if you really are serious about writing and you really want to take your writing to that next level, then you should head on over to the writersroom.us and join me in the writer's room. And that's that. Let us continue.
All right. So let me read on. Pooch, Mama B tugged at his sleeve to steady her balance. She swayed at drunkard's tempo, using him as a crutch. We have a slight problem. Okay, I need to stop. So I need to talk about this because I don't like anything about this. Okay. So first, tugged at his sleeve is fine. How does he know it's to steady her balance? Why isn't it just to get his attention? Why is this here?
But also, it's the exact same thing from above. But it's also the exact same thing above. You're telling me that she's trying to steady her balance, and then you're showing me that she's trying to steady her balance.
Yeah.
Mama B tucked at his sleeve, comma, swaying a drunkard's tempo as she used him as a crutch. Like, it's all there.
Yeah.
You don't change, you don't lose a single thing by cutting out steadying her balance to steady her balance, because you're, again, it's an example of you're telling me something and then you're showing me that same exact thing.
Yeah. Also, my problem with we have a slight problem. Oops. But my problem with we have a slight problem is I don't know how she said this. Did she say this hesitantly? Did she say this? Does it actually mean we have a big problem? Like, I feel like all I've got here is that Mama B is slightly drunk. But I don't have any context for how she says this. What is her emotional state that she's interrupting him?
Is she flirting with him? And, is the slight problem to her that they're both not naked and in bed together? Like,
yeah.
it could go any direction at this point.
So that's the one thing, like, I definitely think. Then, okay, so can't you see I'm busy? He shrugged her off, irritated by her careless handling of vintage apparel. The Playboy merchandise he sported meant little to amateurs dolled up in pink wigs and cat ears. Childish. Okay. Do you have comments?
Yeah. Where you stumbled at, which was the irritated by. Now, at least he didn't show or tell then show, or she, I don't even know if this is a male or female, but irritated by is you're telling me that he was irritated by. So for those that haven't heard me talk about tells and shows and all of that, if you can recognize a tell, which are hard, it's hard to get used to recognizing when you're telling and when you're showing. But once you can recognize them, to fix them, you just ask a question. Now, that question does differ depending on what type of tell that you're doing. This one is an internal feeling. So we could say, what does it feel like internally to be irritated by her canless handling of my clothing? We could also do, what can I show externally to show? So, like, he shrugged her off, smoothing out the claw mark she left in his vintage apparel. That's going to show, when you do stuff like that, you're showing that he's irritated. Or shrugging her off, he frowned as he smoothed out the claw marks, whatever. There's so many different ways to do this. So by getting rid of the irritated by, which is just, you're telling me that he was irritated, you're not letting me be irritated. You're not, there's no connection to me and this Playboy merchandise, because there's no connection to the character in it other than being told that he has a connection to it.
Yeah. The second sentence, I think the purpose is to describe her as wearing pink wigs and cat ears.
Mm-hmm.
But I stumbled over it.
Mm-hmm.
I think mostly because I don't actually see the difference between Playboy merchandise and pink wigs and cat ears.
But here's a great, opportunity to show when I'm talking about, me and you talk about this all the time, about how to set the scene. And we do it at all times. So instead of this telly line of just telling me about this stuff, Pooch, Mama B tugged at his sleeve, comma, her pink wig sliding to the side and covering one of her cat ears, whatever. Like, we can organically work this stuff in without just info dumping it in this line.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So yeah, I think that some of that description needs to move up here rather than being kind of here. All right. Attending his front-facing camera, he framed. Okay, this definitely needs some scene setting up front. Because now I'm behind a camera? When did that happen? Where'd the camera come from? I thought I was at a party. Drinking tequila.
Also attending his front-facing camera.
Yeah, where did the camera come from?
When I'm just saying the word attending, that's a weird.
I
use
assume
of
that
verb.
means touching it or adjusting it or whatever. Like,
well, it's missing.
Okay.
It would, in my opinion, it would need to be attending to his front-facing camera.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so attending to his front-facing camera, he framed an intimate soiree behind him, populated with partygoers. It captured a Basquiat mural of psychedelic shapes and autographed guitar relics. Despite the scenery, he intentionally remained dead center, the focal point of several promotional pictures and videos. Pooch's reflection of immaculate attire beamed back at him. Every carat of his diamond watch glimmered in LED fixtures, complemented by chains and a single stud adorning his ear. So I'm struggling to picture this. Has he got a camera that is filming him and he's looking at it like a advanced selfie?
Yes, that's exactly what this
Okay.
is. But it's all kind of an info dump. There's nothing personal. There's nothing, because we talk about this all the time as well. It's not about describing the world around your characters. It's describing how the character sees the world around the character. So, like, I really do like the line, Pooch's reflection of immaculate attire beamed back at him. I do like that, because that shows how he sees himself in the reflection, in the camera screen. And that's personal. That gives me a little insight into him. But the rest of it is just information.
Yeah. Yeah. And is it important that it's a Basquiat mural?
There's a lot of big words in here that
it is. I mean, okay. So here's the thing, right? A Basquiat mural might send your reader going to Google. And they might go look up what the heck that is and then get, trapped in a little cycle of like, who is Basquiat and what art does he do and so on. And if that's important, then keep the word. But if it's not important who the artist is, if this is not going to play a role in the plot, then don't include it, because you don't want to send your reader to Google over something that's not important. And somebody in the chat says it's a 1980s neo-expressionist painter.
Yeah.
Maybe one in 100 readers are going to know that or
I
care.
think you're being generous.
So I think Basquiat had better feature in the story, like come out from the dead if he's dead and murder somebody with a paintbrush or something equivalent to justify the name being included here, my opinion. in my opinion. But I would definitely cut that.
Although he did hit the weird 27 club. He died at
Okay.
27.
Sure. And maybe it is important, and if it is 100% keep it. But if it's not plot important, like that feels like a detail too far.
Well, now that I've looked him up, because I didn't know who he was,
Yeah.
I actually thought it was just a word, like a descriptive word of what the mural is. But now that I know he is a neo expressionist painter, and I'm looking at some of his art, I don't understand how any of that. I don't understand how a group of people could look like the art that he drew, because now again, I'm not a fan of modern art. I just am not. So
Yeah.
it looks like scribbly marks to me. It just looks like a bunch of, like a 4-year-old went insane with some finger paint.
Oh, wait, I completely misunderstood the image here. He means the partygoers look like a mural of psychedelic shapes. I
Yeah.
thought there was an actual mural painted behind him on a wall somewhere.
No, he's saying the partygoers are like that. But looking at his art, I can't imagine. Like, if I knew his art,
so? Because there's autographed guitar relics.
right?
I mean, maybe there's an actual mural painted on a wall, and then there's people. I don't know.
Oh, you know what? Maybe it is. Maybe there is a.
Yeah.
Maybe now that I'm rereading it, it just read more. So populated with partygoers. So I framed an intimate story behind me, populated by partygoers. It, which means the camera, the picture that's being taken, captured this mural of psychedelic shapes and autographed guitar relics. So to me, I read that as if you're saying that the population of partygoers are creating a mural of psychedelic shapes, and also there are autographed guitar relics. But again, it could be either way.
Yeah.
But that's the way I took it.
Yeah.
So yeah, either there's a really weird painting behind these people. Again, I'm not trying to disparage this guy in any way, shape, or form. I'm not a fan of art. I just, I like dragons, and I'm not a fan of modern art, I should say. It's just never been my thing.
You're not a fan of new expressionist art?
No.
Which is a different thing from necessarily modern art, because like there's some modern art styles that I quite like. I mean, I'm also not an expressionist fan. So
my mother is into modern art, and I'm just like, you do realize that literally looks like you just went to the dump, grabbed something, and hung it on your wall. Like, it doesn't. Like, she's got these car hoods. They're actual car hoods. They're just a car hood that somebody took an axe to and then shot it with guns, and then just painted it like a 4-year-old, blue circles around the gun, bullet holes. And she paid like $7,000 for this thing. And I'm like, did you feel something hit you when you were leaving? Because that was your change that they were throwing at you, like the $6,999 change that they were trying to give you back. So I'm just not a fan of it.
No. I hear you, but I like the absurdist kind of pictures. The weird juxtapositions and stuff, like Dali stuff.
Yeah.
His pictures, and some of that is some of the current artists do really great work in that line. Like there's one where there's a grand piano that's split in the middle and a tree is growing through it on a desert landscape, and it's gorgeous. But art is subjective. So
it is very subjective.
Anyway, this scene, however, needs more scene setting, because you have lost both of us at different points in this paragraph in trying to figure out what exactly is going on.
Yeah.
And I'm still confused by he framed an intimate soiree behind him. Like, he framed with his camera? He framed the shot? He framed as a person, like I don't know. It's hella confusing. So
there's a lot of ways it could be interpreted.
Yeah, I
mean, I
think
think
you need
most
a
people are
little
going to
bit more.
follow it. I think most people are going to follow it the way that the writer is expecting,
Yeah.
attending his front camera. That means, I'm going to see him kind of touching this camera that's in front of him. It's a weird way to say it, but I'm going to follow it. He framed the people behind him with him in the center. I'm going to follow that. The Basquiat or Basque or however you say it, mural, I'm going to go, I don't know that word and I don't care. So I'm going to keep moving on because I don't feel like I'm missing anything if I don't understand that sentence. So I'm just going to skip it and move on. And then, I'm going to pull from this paragraph the things that he's narcissistic and must be in the center of attention, and, how he feels about himself. Like I said, I still really like the line, Pooch's reflection of immaculate
I
attire
do
being back at
too.
him.
I do, and I like the attention that he's paying to setting up the selfie. I just
Mm-hmm.
think you need to make it more clear that he's setting up a selfie.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's nothing wrong with going, he set up a selfie. Like, it just feels like there's a lot of words involved here for something that everybody will understand the action of.
Yeah. I mean, you can be a little bit more artistic than, he set up, he pointed his camera at him and the people behind him. You can be a little bit more artistic than that.
Yeah,
But
no, I get that, but I mean, you can just work it in there because, like,
yeah.
at the moment, it just feels like the camera is disconnected from, I guess, a mobile phone, which it might be, but it could be any kind of camera, like it could be a stationary camera on a tripod for all I know.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, and where's the LED fixtures? Like, anyway, scene setting currently is my biggest problem here. Anyway, let me continue. He pretended to read the time displayed on his Rolex, disregarding her existence. The array of gears and markings complicated the matter. Even as an adult, he struggled to tell time on an analog clock.
Pronoun problem again.
Yeah.
The her, disregarding her existence. We are so far removed from Mommy B at this point that in my mind, I'm going to associate her with the Rolex, and that he's just personifying the Rolex and making it a she. And he's pretending to read the time while acting like the Rolex doesn't exist, because I'm so far removed from Mama B at this point that, and I realize we've talked a lot about stuff, but I still think 3 paragraphs is way too far to go back for.
It's a long way since we saw her name.
Yeah. For a pronoun.
Yeah.
So definitely
10
he pretended to
lines.
read the time displayed on his Rolex, disregarding Mama B's existence. You're not going to go wrong with giving me that name again here. It's just way too far removed.
I definitely think it's a good place for the name. But I also have a second problem, which is, okay, up to here, you're showing me he's struggling. And then you tell me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of that in this. There's a lot of the show then tell, tell then show.
If there's one thing you take away from this critique to the author, when you're showing, don't also tell. Your readers are not idiots. They will get it.
And even if it was something like let's say you go like, here's a good argument for, yeah, but if I just write, he pretended to read the time displayed on his Rolex, disregarding Mama B's existence, the array of gears and markings complicated the matter. Like, if we did that and you were like, yeah, but I'm not 100% sure readers are going to follow me on that. There's a good argument for that. There is a lot of readers that will not follow you for that. But again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about make it personal. It nagged at him, or it tore him up that even now as an adult, he struggled to tell time. Give me something that gives me an emotion in it, instead of just telling me, even as adult, he struggled to tell time on an analog clock. Just adding something like, it embarrassed him that even as an adult, he struggled. Like, just it embarrassed him gives me that personal connection to this thing, as opposed to just telling me that he struggles. And as silly as that sounds, adding just 3 or 4 words, and you're like, wow, what's the point? Because it makes me connect to Poochie or Pooch or whatever, Pooch.
It makes instead of the description just telling me why he's struggling, it tells me how he feels about the fact
How
that
he's
he's
struggling.
struggling.
Yep.
And that makes it, that changes it from a tell into an intimate connection to the character.
Yes.
So
So
yeah.
there is an argument to be made here to do the show and then the tell. 100%
Yes.
argument. However, don't just tell me the tell, make the tell have value.
Yeah.
Because again, and we talked about this in other podcasts, but I'll go down this path. I always talk about, it's not the how and the what. It's not how Drake walked up to the door, how he opened the door, what he did when he walked in the room. You have to tell those. Those have to be there, because if you don't tell me how he opened the door and what he did when he walked in the room, I can't see any of that. But that is not what is going to connect the reader to the story. It's the why and the effect. Why is Drake opening the door and walking into the room? And what effect does it have on Drake or the world around Drake to open the door and walk into the room? So in this case right here, it embarrassed him that even as an adult, he struggled. Now I have the effect of him doing this, and that connects me to him. The how and the what has to be there, but that isn't, if you just have the hows and the whats, you get this where it's like, it's just telly and you don't really connect with that character. Whys and the effects, that is what's going to connect the reader to the character.
Absolutely. Okay. So, one of my girls is late. I got enough issues on my plate already. This needs a speech tag. I don't know who said this.
I have no idea who said that. I have no idea who said that.
Yeah, I don't know who said that. So you need a speech tag or a something here.
And here's the biggest thing that throws it off. If I'm reading this, I assume that it's Mommy B or Mama B. I can't remember now. Somebody in the chat room was talking about the difference between Mama and Mommy, because Mommy is a little weird. Is it Mommy B or Mama B?
Mommy B.
Yeah.
Which is a little weird.
a little weird. But so the first time I read this, I assume that it's Mommy B. But then we have a brand new paragraph with she shuffled closer to him. So now I'm going to go, no, this is Mama B saying, but Rose, she's not, which means Mama B didn't say one of my girls is late. And now I'm going, but that means Pooch said that? And that doesn't make any sense to me. And so now I've stopped reading your story and I'm trying to figure out what you're writing. And that's what we don't want our readers doing.
Yeah, and let's say I go, okay, Pooch said that. Why does Pooch have girls? Why isn't Mama B the one with girls? Like, and then I'm just getting confused.
Yeah, and there's no reason to break that out as another paragraph. One of my girls is late. I got enough on my plate already. She shuffled close to him, but Rose, she's not. Although I think that's too long of a line for a dialogue splice. So I would probably do one of my girls is late, close quote, she shuffled close to him. And again, only use she if in the last paragraph I've disregarded Mommy B's existence, because otherwise this is still too far away for another pronoun. And then I got enough on my plate already, but Rose, she's not. Like, we could do that. We could also start it off with she shuffled closer, or Mommy B shuffled closer to him. One of my girls is late. I got enough on my plate already, but Rose is not. However you want to do it. I love dialogue splices. So, I don't mind a short little sentence. One of my girls is late, close quote, Mommy B shuffled closer to him, period, open quote. I got enough on my plate, because then it sets it close enough to the beginning of the paragraph that I know who's saying it.
Yeah.
So if you do it at the end of that, that's a lot of dialogue to have to go through, not knowing who is talking before we finally get to the, Mama B shuffled.
So yeah, I think you definitely need to clean up who's speaking there. Then the booming bass of house music drowned her Valley Girl inflection, a poetic touch to his indifference. He let her words fade behind a wall of chaotic sounds, chatter, karaoke. A tray full of bud lay on the French kitchen counter, demanding his focus. He rolled a sushi roll of a blunt, licking his fingers clean of the mess he made.
Do love sushi roll of a blunt.
A sushi roll of a blunt is great. The fact that we have a French kitchen counter here,
Yeah, it does come out of nowhere. But the first problem that I have with this is,
We were soireeing.
yeah,
I'm hella confused.
yeah. We don't know where anything is in relation to anything, so we're having a
Yeah.
really hard time physically grounding ourselves. But the first problem that I have with this is her Valley Girl inflection. She has no Valley Girl inflection.
Yeah.
So, and it's not that hard. And I'm not saying right accents, but on 22, it could be like, one of my girls is late, or whatever. There's
Yeah.
so many
You
tags that
you
are
don't have to write an accent for Valley Girl.
right. No, they
Valley
have
Girl.
a lingo all of their own.
Yeah. I mean, you can put in the likes, the you knows, the,
Yeah.
totallys, etc., etc.
Yeah. I totally got enough issues on my plate already.
Yes.
Like, you
And
can
there you
give
go.
me
You're
the
Valley
Valley
Girling
Girl.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right there, I go Valley Girl inflection. No, she does not have
Yeah.
a Valley Girl inflection.
Yeah.
So
No, I agree that if you want a Valley Girl inflection, then you need to add the Valley Girl words.
yeah, and that's not even hard. It's not even like
Yeah.
you're writing an accent if you just want to write Valley Girl.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you're writing an accent like the Boston one that,
Right.
somehow all the R's go missing.
Right.
Like, they're all kidnapped and walked away somewhere else. Didn't you
I don't
hear
know.
me?
It,
Yeah.
it, I don't know what you're talking about. When, I mean, they're just parking the car.
They're parking the car wicked far in the car park. And probably with a few cuss words thrown in between from what
Yeah.
I've seen.
Yeah.
on
I
YouTube.
was definitely taking those out for our YouTube audience.
Yeah, we're on YouTube. It's a family show, Can't talk like a Bostonian. Okay, so this French counter, this thing needs to be set up better. Like, where are we?
Mhm.
Because I'm confused about what's around us.
Yeah. I mean, and even something as simple as, and I don't know if this is it, I'm taking liberties with the story, obviously, but, up where, he reached out and flicked the front camera of his phone, and I wouldn't write it this way, but sitting on a tripod on top of the French
Counter.
in front of him. Like, then you set all of where all of that stuff is.
But I mean, you give us this detail of like the mural and the autographed guitar relics, but you don't tell us we're in a house
or a warehouse
or a warehouse or a club or a, like, you need to do a little bit more to ground the reader in what's going on. Like, where are we? Then okay, so then didn't you hear me? Be whined. Rose is killing the vibe, acting all stiff and pissy. She's making the clients uncomfortable. I thought you should know. Okay. A whiff of her yeasty breath made him wince. Ma, how much did you drink? I only had a glass of champagne, she slurred. You're not a lightweight. Yeah?
So a couple things, up on 28, Rose is like totally killing the vibe. Like, if we're going to go Valley Girl.
Valley Girl. Yeah.
But the other thing, since you stopped at 31 is a speech tag. She slurred. So it would be a comma after champagne and a lowercase s.
Yeah.
I'd say Rose is like totally killing the vibe.
You mean really hammering home there?
Yeah. Rose is like totally killing the vibe, acting all pissy and stuff. I don't know why.
Now you sound Australian.
Into a Cockney accent there.
Also, I'm confused. Okay, so one of the girls is late. Then we comment on Rose. But then it turns out that Rose is not late. Rose is killing the vibe. So is the problem that one of the girls is late, or is the problem that Rose is being a stiff, uptight person?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
This piece would be really well served with getting the setting out of the head book and getting onto the
Yeah.
paperwork. The writer obviously sees where every character is in relation to every other character and what the surrounding world is around them. We do not. The other thing is that I don't really have a set motivation. I don't understand why I'm here. You know, we talk about all the time. There's 4 things you want to do at the opening of every scene, but really the opening of your story is vitally important. Whose head am I in? That's why that his kills me at the very beginning. Where am I at? Well, we don't really know. I think we're in a club, but I'm guessing. You know, we could be at a house party.
I think we're in a house. I think we're in a house party.
Maybe, I don't
Yeah.
know. We're guessing. Why am I here? I have no idea. I have no idea why I'm here. And unless it's just to just get drunk and party and that, but I have no idea. And then what is the hook? I don't feel a hook. Like at first I thought the hook might be his narcissism and his clothing and all this other stuff, and the fact that he might be some type of influencer, but now we're talking about, you know, a girl being late, which means this feels more like, is it a cat house? You know, is he a pimp and he's running a group of, you know, call girls? Like, but then we start talking about Rose and like she's killing the vibe, and there is no continuity of a story that I've been able to sink my teeth into so that I want to keep reading. Basically through this, and I say this all the time as well. I know I've said that all the time too. I should stop saying all the time. Anyway, there's 2 reasons that a reader is going to read your story. They're either going to read it because they have to, because it's the next thing. So they'll read the next paragraph because it's the next thing, or they're going to read the next paragraph because the last paragraph forces them to.
Yeah.
It pushes them through the story or pulls them through the story, however you want to look at it, as opposed to them having to slog through the story. And right now, since I haven't got hooked on anything, I don't really understand motivation, I don't see where I'm at, I'm now slogging through this story. I'm reading the next paragraph because I have to, if I'm going to keep reading this.
Yeah.
But since choices are unlimited for us readers, I don't have to slog through this. I could stop reading this and move to something else.
This piece needs 2 things. It needs motivation for the character. Why are we in this scene? What does the character want out of this? Is it these publicity photo shoots, in which case fine, but then focus on them instead of like the party and the sushi roll of a blunt and so on? Like, is it to have fun? Or are we just unwinding? Okay, but then you need to connect us very strongly to that unwinding, because that's not the easiest thing in the world to hook somebody onto. And the second thing you need is you've got to get the scene set better. I am like, the amount of time we've argued about, like, is this an actual picture or is it like a description of the people behind him? Is it in a house? Is it in a club? You know, at one point in my head, this image was he was completely outside a building.
I thought that at one point too.
And taking a photo with like a house behind. Like, I don't know at this point.
Yeah. The reality is, in prose, if you do not give the reader what they're supposed to be seeing, they will make it up because they have to. They have to paint something in their mental movie. The problem is that it's never going to be what you hope that they painted, ever, period. And so when you do give them a piece of information that breaks the movie that they've created in their mind, now they feel jilted. They feel like you have done something. They're not going to blame themselves. They're going to blame you. They're going to blame the story. And it's going to keep pushing them further and further away from the story until they just stop reading it. Because if you keep breaking the mental movie that they've created with facts that should have been given to them sooner, then they're just going to stop reading. They're not going to enjoy the piece. It's going to become a slog.
Yeah. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you paint the details they need to see the scene.
Now,
and give them that context.
All that being said, for the most part, this writer has a great grasp of grammar. Their sentence structure is pretty good. The, one comma, one dialogue tag error there, but everything, paragraph structure, except for the one that, they're on 22, 23, where it broke out the mommy bees kind of thing across 2 paragraphs. For the most part, this writer's got a really good grasp of just the basics of prose. So
they also have some very, very good images in here. I did like the sushi roll of a blunt. I did like the immaculate attire being back
Yeah.
at him. That was very good.
Yeah.
There was some really good turns of phrases here. And if you just give the character a good motivation and you set the scene cleanly,
Give me the
those
whys and the effects.
yes. Then those little lines of prose, those good lines of prose will really shine. It'll make the scene come alive for the reader. But at the moment, they're just little lines, little nuggets of, beauty, but there's so much noise around them that it's hard to appreciate them in their full.
Yeah. So, but the cool thing about that is the base stuff is out of the way, which so many writers, work for months, if not years, to just get to this point where they're writing good, solid prose. Now, this writer needs to think about that next level, which is the image that you're painting. How are you connecting the reader to the scene and the character? How are you manipulating the reader's emotions to make them care about this moment in time, this fictitious moment that doesn't exist with fictitious characters that don't exist? How do you make the reader care about these people and care about wanting to find out more about these people and care about this moment in time that they are reading? So that's just the next level. That's the next stage that you have to go through as a writer. But that is really nice because you're not worrying about like how to punctuate, where do commas go, what is a sentence structure, what are paragraph structures, and all of that stuff. So kudos to that. Like that is, I do want to say that because we, as always, we ripped it apart, and that's because that's our job. But we could pull something of mine or pull something of yours and just be just as brutal on it. It's just the way it works. Everything can be improved.
Yeah. There's no piece of writing that is so good that it cannot be torn apart by people looking for a reason to rip into it.
Yep. So much so that and I've been working on this for like 15 years on the back burner, but I've actually pulled the trigger on it because I don't have enough projects. But I have pulled the trigger on Maxwell Alexander Drake's Hamlet. So I'm only going to write 1 chapter a month, so it's going to be definitely a slow burn, but I am giving it away for free on my newsletter. So if you would like to read it month after month, head on over to Starving Writer Studio, sign up for my newsletter, and every month you'll get a new chapter of Maxwell Alexander Drake's Hamlet, because I can improve Shakespeare, because everyone can improve everything. And it's not being arrogant. It's just that everything can be improved.
Yep. And I think that is a good note on which to end this episode. And we will see you soon for another one.
Bye.
If you are ready to take your writing to the next level and work with a group of highly motivated, dedicated writers who are all working to not only improve their writing, but improve your writing, plus you get to work with me on a weekly basis, then I'll encourage you to check out writersroom.us. This is a website that I have created that I really wish I had 30 years ago. It's everything a writer needs to become a better writer. Not only do we do weekly critique sessions, both from other members as well as me, we have daily writing sessions, I do monthly classes, Q&As, we have activities, I do all sorts of learning exercises, such as I do a quarterly writing prompt contest, and just tons and tons and tons of things. So if you're ready to get serious about your writing and you want to actually finish that novel and have a chance of it being published, then I encourage you to head on over to the Writer's Room and join me there. And as a special promotion for listeners of Releasing Your Inner Dragon, I'll go one step more. If you would like to get 50% off for 3 months, reach out to me. There's a million ways you can do that. You can do it through starvingwriterstudio.com, drakeu.com, any of my social medias such as LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, whatever. Reach out to me, say that you would like to check out the Writer's Room for 50% off, and I will send you a link that will allow you to do just that. So hopefully you're ready to start getting serious about writing, and I'll see you in the Writer's Room.
Thank you for tuning in. This is Marie Mullaney, your co-host on this literary adventure. Our goal is to provide you with valuable insights and discussions on writing. If you believe in our mission, please like and subscribe our podcast. Sharing our episodes with your community not only helps us grow, but also contributes to a richer, more diverse conversation about storytelling. We appreciate your support. For a deeper understanding of the topics we've discussed, head over to Just in Time Worlds on YouTube. It is a treasure trove where fantasy meets history and science. Every Tuesday, you'll find new videos that delve into the intricacies of world building, drawing from our rich real-world history. Whether you're a writer, a role player, or just a fantasy enthusiast, Just in Time Worlds offers unique insights that will enrich your perspective. Check it out and join the journey of crafting incredible worlds.